From Innovera, we've got Leigh Swelling. Leigh, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Today, improving production throughput and training times has become more crucial than ever. Presenting Production Assistant, a scalable solution designed by award-winning woodworking industry leader WebCab to optimize your factory's capabilities. Production Assistant is fast and easy to implement, with no interference to ongoing operations. And thanks to it, new employees can be trained quicker than ever. Production Assistant is a manufacturing execution system that integrates seamlessly with and can import data from all major CAD/CAM engineering software. It offers a wide variety of modules that feature intuitive tools for employees and shop managers, such as damaged parts management, optimization of part tracking, flow and organization, 3D visual guides for cabinet assembly, and delivery control featuring barcode or RFID microchip technologies. Automated sorting visually indicates to employees in which bin a part should be placed. Organize your shipping area with automatically generated packing lists that create easy-to-identify kits, so employees can be visually and audibly warned if they load a kit in the wrong truck. This way, you'll avoid costly delivery mistakes and service calls. Imagine a future where you can harmonize communication between departments and cut assembly times by up to 50%. Imagine a manufacturing system you can easily configure to your needs. Bring your factory to the next level today. Welcome to WebCab. Welcome to...
For those that have got a Cabinetry.Online platform, the customer journey starts when you receive the order, in essence. That they're going to place an order, you're going to get a notification come through, and the source of truth is the Cabinetry.Online platform. Okay, so that's a critical aspect when you're thinking about Cabinetry.Online. Cabinetry.Online do all the data development. They create a CAD/CAM system that interfaces with a e-commerce platform. The end customer, your market, is basically going to your website, buying the product, and you're getting a notification of an order that's been received for you to process. So the critical aspect of that is that in our software, we've got the ability to import that order that comes straight from the Cabinetry.Online platform and synchronize in our system. So our source of truth is the Cabinetry.Online database, if that makes sense. So that's important to note because, as was just mentioned in the session prior, is that you really want systems that interface with your methodologies or your ways. So what's typically taking place through here is every job that comes through the platform goes through, gets nested in the CAD/CAM software. It's going to have a quantity of parts, a quantity of sheets, quantity of products, and that information is basically displayed in a capacity graph. So this might be a white line, color line, or assembly. We could have the two lines merged to increase daily capacity. What this would do, it would provide insight to a production manager, owners, staff, around what does the future capacity of our shop look like. One of the things that the team before Province Brothers sort of suggest is they map their workflows before they sort of take something on or whether they introduce something new. So that could be drafting, optimization. In this case, someone's doing a 15-day call-up, order materials, receive materials, 7-day call-up, schedule job, machining colour, machining white assembly, delivery, installation, on-site QA. Again, if you're not installing, it's not applicable. But the critical mass with this is that there's an order that's been received and you will determine what that delivery or pickup or install date is. And these tasks backward schedule to that said target date, if that makes sense. When we get to a granular level a bit later on, these will be percentage based. So if we're machining colour and we track it by sheets or we track it by parts, the percentage completion will be dependent on how many parts or how many sheets. Mapping your workflows, that would be applicable to if it was Serrano doors, 2-pack job, longer lead time, you've got to wait for the materials to come through. Notifications come through, you've got your order, you're selecting the style of job that it is, you're picking a target date, it's backward scheduling from that target date, and it's mapping out your workflow. With that, pretty easy to manage one job mostly. Imagine you've got 100 jobs, you've got reworks, you've got maintenance tickets, you're breaking your jobs up into small batches. So rather than batching large scale, you might be breaking it and optimising room by room. So the idea of it is that each of these jobs or work orders come through Cabinetry.Online database, gets imported in, might have the client details if clients put their details in, and then what will happen as it's going through productions, we might have delivery date, or might be pickup date, what templates associated with it, what type of job, how many products, assemblies, how many sheets of board, and then more importantly, what stage or status that particular job's up to. So again, those workflows you can pretty much create and put the right terminology to align with your manufacturing process. But this dashboard is ideally a global dashboard that's showing you all the projects that are in play. And as each of those orders get placed through the Cabinetry.Online platform, it synchronises back into here and you're seeing them as a task to action. Rather than working in a calendar view, they'll generally go up and work in a list view. So although this is saying machining, so machining sequence, particular client, etc., 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 it could be drafting, it could be order materials. So basically like a daily task list or a weekly task list of tasks to action. And typically what would happen is if I was in drafting or I was in engineering, I'd click on the task and I'd start it and then execute it, which would then, out of a bucket system, once we go to the next view, mapping your workflows. There might be cutting, edging, hinging, sorting, assemble, QA, and shipped. So once we get to a granular level in the factory, might be based on parts, it could be based on assemblies, it could be based on all. So it starts its life out at 268 parts. There might be certain parts that only require edging, so there might be a fixed barcode scanner there. Might be certain parts that only require hinging. As it goes through, it might be sorted into particular bays or mobile carts, gets assembled, so from 268 parts into 34 assemblies as such. QA, so this will change job by job, because if you don't assemble something but you do what we call kitting, you might scan a series of barcodes and wrap that, and you might only have 10 kits instead of 50 products. And then the shipping at the end, depending on if we're shipping parts, so we might have an edge bander and we might be scanning parts onto a skid. If it's started at 268 parts, you should end at 268 parts in theory. But ultimately, what you're hoping throughout this whole process is that you're trying to mitigate risk, that you've received an order, customer has an expectation, and you've got to go through and manufacture it and ensure what you send is there in its entirety. So if a business doesn't really have a system in place that actually validates what's actually leaving the factory has been received in its entirety, that's a fairly big risk. And if you think of an Amazon order coming to your door, there's always a piece of paper in there that says what's in the box. Well, that's as much for their benefit as it is for yours. It's taking it out of an inventory system to say that somebody in their business has interacted with it, and what should be in the box is in the box. So what Maestro does, so there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of tasks in the system. So what you can then go do have is a drafting schedule based on urgency, from soonest job to latest job. If there was call-ups for the admin team, machining schedules for cutting colour and white. You can have some preventative maintenance in there for perhaps decking spoil boards. You might have something for cleaning the glue parts. Assembly, so we've got a heap of trolleys on the floor. What's the next trolley to assemble? Everything is synchronised based on that delivery or schedule associated with pickup, install, whatever we choose to define as our reference point. What I just sort of demonstrated and shared there is all well and good if you're in an office environment, you're managing office-related processes. It's all coming in through the source of truth of Cabinetry.Online. Coming through, we've mapped our work processes, we've gone through and we've executed certain things, we've created all of our production schedules for our team, and then we're moving into the factory, into an execution point of view. So again, there's a bit of a workflow going through here. There could be some mobile trolleys. Talked about roller bearings and whatnot. We've got some assembly benches going through here. And I guess with what we've sort of shared, I guess there's not necessarily a one size fits all, but there's a best practice relative to your business, and that will evolve. But this particular business, they had a sorting rack here. Their major issue was with all the shipments that they were doing, was that they were probably getting 1 out of 3 customers call to say they were missing hardware. Even though they probably had the hardware, customers say, hey, we didn't get those Blum hinges or those drawers or whatever it might be. And for some businesses that we work with, they say, it could equate to maybe 5% profit leak, where you assume everything's there, but you've actually got no proof whether or not it's there in its entirety. And most people don't actually look, can't find a panel, it's easy to recut it. So 5 of the many benefits of a production management system is obviously it's geared towards improving production throughput. It's geared towards that you're an operator on a particular station and your job is to QA that particular line before it proceeds to the next line. Completion rate of orders, visibility of production, and reduction of reworks. Well, in some cases it's a reduction of reworks, but it's also an identification of where those reworks are occurring or those damaged parts are occurring. So typically speaking, with the Cabinetry.Online customers we've worked with so far, we generally have a touch point in the office, the CNC machine shop, so this could be the edge bander, potentially at the part sorting, kitting and wrapping, hardware, and then I guess the shipping aspect of it. So office gets the gets the order from Cabinetry.Online, it then exports that out to the factory. The CNC machine shop generally is a touch point at the edge bander, and really what happens there is the parts are edged, someone's identifying there's a big chip in something, or I don't know, the sticker's damaged, it's been cut on the CNC, they need to reprint another sticker. And by then marking that as a damaged part, sends a notification back to the office, but it also alerts all the stations that follow that this part is missing, don't look for it, and it goes through. Once we get to part sorting, some choose to scan those parts into either a fixed sorting rack with an LED system or screens, or they also have mobile trolleys where there's a barcode on the side of it. Scan the trolley, scan the parts into that sorting trolley. Kitting and wrapping, so again what that's determined as is that you might have a cabinet 1, might consist of 8 parts, you scan those 8 barcodes into a kit, you print a product label, and then that kit label is scanned onto a pallet, and that QA has a scan time when it was interacted with and so on. The hardware, so what that will do is it will extract all the quantity of screws, brackets, and regroup them, so you'll have a sort of a station at your storeroom, and it'll go job number 1, 2, 3, 4, you require 50 sets of plumb hinges, 36 handles, all the way down out of the Cabinetry.Online database. And then lastly, the shipping. Once we've got that, we generally create a shipping dispatch summary, has a scan time, has the time it was interacted with, and has a number of the kits, or however we've chosen to deploy that. So really, once we're getting into here, what we're talking about, as interactions are happening in the factory, we have a global dashboard for all jobs that are telling us where the status of those are up to. So somebody in the admin team gets a call, they can go into the database, they can sort of see where that job's up to in its entirety. And idealistically, before a job leaves the factory, ideally these are all green, or if there's an orange or there's something missing, you're checking it to see if it's something on back order or if it was damaged or missing or whatever it might be, and then you're making that decision to either let it go or to make that call to say, hey, we're not going to get that job out tomorrow. The critical aspect with this whole execution system is the source of truth is Cabinetry.Online. So they do all the development of the entire database. So that, out of all the other CAD/CAM systems that are out there, that is the major value add of a Cabinetry.Online platform. The beauty of what this does, it's using the same data set, and it's, so if they decide to add more hardware in, if they decide to, whatever it might be, it's already synchronizing between back to this system. We can track the progress of jobs and tasks through the entire factory or manufacturing line, and there's an aspect of streamlining communication between office and factory. So for some of the largest scale joinery manufacturers, they've got 3 warehouses, there's a lot of departmental, I want to say, issues or constraints, bottlenecks. From a production manager's point of view, from middle management point of view, they're not directly on the floor. It's really the only visibility that you've got around how things are actually going in the factory and manufacturing in most cases. This label should look familiar to those that are using Cabinetry.Online. So we've got a barcode here. So each part that's going through the system, each part, unbeknownst to you, has a unique ID, which is what we're able to QA. So effectively, when we nest a job, so in this case and scenario here, this particular business, to meet their production requirements, they need to produce 300 parts on their CNC per day. That's it, that's their daily goal. So what will happen at the start of the day, this will be both at 0, and the machinist effectively, generally speaking, is racing the screen, in essence. get to 4 o'clock or wherever it might be, this should be at 300 parts produced. And the reason why they work at parts is because it's a more accurate calculation, because once we're going through kitting, once we're going through edging, once we're going through everywhere, it's at the most granular point rather than, old adage of sheets per day or whatever it might be. Track the progress of sheets cut or parts cut, track damaged parts, record time against the staged job, update the office with the progress of the job, again, streamline office and factory communications. Part sorting. So in this scenario, it's a fixed part sorting rack. So the bins or the bays are about 220, 250 mil wide. It's possible to have an LED light that will go into here, 6 lights. The lights can change colour relative to if it's a cupboard that needs to be assembled, if it's something that's special or unique to assign, or it could be a different colour for doors. So the idea is that there's some edge banders coming through here. In some cases, they'll have a table that pushes down, and then there's an operator here that's scanning the parts into the sorting rack. What it will do is it will go through, so if we scan a barcode, it will go to whatever bay is available, and let's just pretend this is cabinet 1, and then it's going to go, right, cabinet 1 had 8 parts associated with it, first part's been scanned in. Scan the next part, it's cupboard 3, what's the next bay available? Might go into this particular bay here, and then go, cabinet 3 had 12 parts associated with it, and so on and so on. On the other side of the sorting rack, it'll only go green once all the parts have been received. If that makes sense. So ultimate goal is, generally, this is half full, always. So the idea of it is that the parts are coming off the CNC line in an inconsistent manner. So you've got 30 sheets of board, never really in a sequential order of cabinet 1 through to cabinet 30 or whatever it might be. Reduction of damaged parts. So if it's coming off the edge bander through, ideally CNC edge bander, and it's going into a holding bay, and then if you're assembling it, it might be a separate colour. If it's getting wrapped, you want your wrapping station straight off the side of it. Generally put some carpet or something in there when you're sliding the parts in, so it doesn't damage the parts when they go through. For some, it's getting rid of those trolleys, because real estate in factories, it's pretty precious. Increased flow. So where this gets into its best practice is if the factory's tight and small and compressed. The visual instructions, so the idea of it is you scan a part into a sorting rack, and be that a mobile trolley, is that it's going to identify what the parts are missing, what parts are there. You can interact with the sizing of parts. Each part will have a unique code if we need to print another label or sticker. And a couple of other ones for QA-ing the line as well. Typically speaking, this would be sorting out. So on this side, if we've got an LED, this would go green once all the parts have been received. This scenario here, they've got a kitting station here where they do the hand wrapping. They take the cupboards out. They'll print a sticker out, scan the parts into the product, into the kit, print the product label, and then put that onto the kit, and then hand wrap it and scan it onto a skid. So from a hardware point of view, we might have a hardware station, and what it's doing is basically these terminologies that are coming from the Cabinetry.Online database, regrouping it. So we need 16 legs, we need 52 adjustable clips, we need 150 screws, printing a product label, so print product, prints the product out, has a barcode, and it has that, and it also can take it out of inventory. Hardware stage benefits, probably the critical, and that's what Mike was saying at Custom Flat Pack, was hardware was where he made or lost his profit in the event that something was missing or something was said it wasn't received by the end customer. Piece of whiteboard, as much as inconvenient, in relative terms, it's a lower cost commodity. Create product labels, scan for inventory, 100% accuracy once we get through. So what we're trying to do overall is ensure what the customer's ordered is what the customer receives from your factory. That's plain and simple. So idealistically, green, get your shipping scan date, kit name, hardware items, etc., and it's there in its entirety, goes with the job. Customer shouldn't call you to say they're missing anything, because there's something to validate that what's in the pile should be in the pile. So again, byproduct of the Cabinetry.Online database, it's going through its entire life cycle. The kits are super useful for grouping a lot of loose parts together, 100%. So if you've got your kickers and your bulkheads and stuff like that, you can get several single parts, wrap it together, print a product label, scan it onto a pallet or skid. and update the office once the job leaves the factory.